Part 3 we ended on 2 amazing Scottish Cup victories and being the first junior team to be invited to play in England. But that's not where our streak of success ends, as we now go into the 1972-73 season with another run in the Scottish Cup.
In 1972-73, Irvine Meadow had a great Scottish Cup run, went on the way to the final, and we won the Cup after 3 games.
The 3 games, it was for Springside. We went on the first Saturday with a minibus for the bowling club. The second Wednesday, the replay, I had the Works van, so on top with all the boys in the Works van. And then in the third game, I hadn't any transport, so I phoned my uncle in Christhouse, and he says, right, you can borrow my car, but you'll need to take my pigeons with you. So I had to get up to get the car, and there were 5 of us in the car with the doos in the roof rack, and I had to go up over Eagleshire Moor and let the doos off before we went to see the game. So I always remember that game especially,
In the early 1970s, there was a vacancy in the Scottish Football League, and Meadow were invited to apply. However, Bob Alexander was having none of it. As far as he was concerned, Meadow was a junior club and would stay that way. As it turned out, the vacancy was filled by Ferranti Thistle, a works team from Edinburgh, who changed their name to Meadowbank Thistle. Another change of name and they became Livingston.
In season 73-74, the Meadow won the North Section League.
My first game for the Meadow, I think, was a Scottish Cup semi-final, either at Firhill or might have been at Love Street, but I'm not sure. But I'm sure we get beat.
As Meadow's success stories continued, with them winning the North Section League and the Scottish Junior Cup, unfortunately at this time they lost one of the major influences of that success.
1974 marked a very sad occasion with the club with the loss of Bob Alexander. Bob had held the post of club secretary from 1945, a total of 29 consecutive years.
Bob wasn't just the secretary of Irvine Meadow. He also served as president of the Scottish Junior Football Association from 1963 to 1966. He was a strict manager, didn't suffer fools gladly, but also an approachable man with a great game knowledge and a tremendous talent for identifying what players were a good fit for Irvine Meadow. He led the team to 3 Scottish Cup wins in his time as manager.
When I first came on the committee, Irvine Meadow in 1974, Bob Alexander was the secretary. And at that time, the committee picked the team. And that was a shambles. We were here till 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock some nights.
I first started supporting Irvine Meadow, it'd probably been 1974. We used to jump the wall at the side of the wee Danny's, the newsagents just at the corner there.
So there was no trophies won in season 1974-75, nor indeed the following season, 1975-76.
However, in season 1976-77, Meadow bounced back winning the District Cup,
which they followed up in season 1977-78 by winning the District Cup again.
Up till now, the team was picked by committee and announced by the secretary. But in 1979, Meadow appointed their first ever manager, John Minford, a former player.
Earliest memories at Meadow Park are sitting over where the old pavilion used to be on the far side of the park, and it was a Scottish Cup tie and the ground was heaving, and I think it was against Aberdeen Sunnybank, and yet again we get beat.
Seen Irvine Meadow and Shotsbone Accord, and the Meadow beat them, and it was at Hannah Park, and the name in the paper was the Battle of the Giants.
It took a couple of years for Meadow to feature again with a trophy, when the team once again won the District Cup in season 81-82, beating the Buffs 2-1.
This was a period when Meadow struggled with the major trophies, like the Scottish Cup for example, but within the local Ayrshire trophies, they continued that success.
We followed up in season 82-83, won the Cunningham District Cup.
I had the lassies in the pram, one in the pram and one in the seat. And I come round James Crescent, round the back,
and the Meadow were playing, the gate was open, so I turned the pram in the gate, and lo and behold they were playing Kilburnie, and Jim Marner was in goals. And I knew Jim for being a rep and getting into Greenock to see him at his work. Well, he worked with the council in there, and I always had a wee chat to him in there. So there we were behind the goals, chatting away about different things. And since that day on, my father-in-law, Jim Devlin, and his brother Jackie Devlin, who was the manager of the co-op there in Carlton Road, we used to go every week following the Meadow.
In 1982-83 season, the Meadow also won the League Cup.
In 1983, Sonny McInnesby took over as manager.
In season 1983-84, Irvine Meadow won the Ayrshire Cup and the Cunningham District Cup.
In 1984, Crawford Boyd took over as manager and the team went on to win the Ayrshire Cup again.
Moving to Irvine via Stevenson, I began my association with Irvine Meadow and Clarkborough Highway amateur team roughly 1984, and a few enjoyable experiences regarding Meadow in particular with Nigel McCreath in that particular team. Don't remember all the players, but one of the outstanding players was Gary Faulds, who went on to play senior football. So since then I've always had an affiliation and enjoyed any experiences here at Meadow Park.
In season 1985-86, Irvine Meadow won the Cunningham District Cup once again. We beat Went Rovers 5-4 in a replay after the first game ended 0-0 each.
Milton Thompson then took over as manager.
In the 86-87 season, Alan Johnson took over as manager. Alan was a previous player with the club.
In 1987-88, Meadow won the Cunningham Cup again, beating Beath 3-1.
So looking back at old photographs of the teams, the first evidence I can see of a sponsor's name on the player strips was in season 1989-1990, when a company called Industrial Clothing Services sponsored the shirts at that time. To my knowledge, we have had sponsors every year since, up to our current sponsor, ASIM Decor. Andy Sim played with the Meadow and is a great supporter of the club. We can't thank our sponsors enough and hope we can develop further associations with them.
Winning the West Cup again in season 89-90 and again in 90 and 91.
In 1991, Ian McQueen took over as Irvine Meadow manager.
I joined Irvine Meadow in 1990 after leaving Queen of the South. Yeah, we picked up the, what was the old Cunningham Cup? That was the first cup that we won. And the year following me, we won the league against played Kilwinning Rangers at Meadow Park with a last-minute goal from Colin Johnston. Although it was Jim O'Donnell was actually taken over as manager at that time, but nevertheless, it was that was a good team. There's a lot of players there that were first-class players.
In 1991-92, the team won the Cunningham Cup again, beating Beath 2-0.
In season 1993-94, Irvine Meadow and Auchinleck Talbot were battling out for the league championship. Meadow's final game was at Auchinleck, and they went there knowing that a win or a draw would give them the league championship. With the score sitting at 1-1 and less than 5 minutes to play, it was still looking good for Meadow, and then Ross Finlay of Talbot scored with a header. Talbot won the game 2-1, and Meadow reacted by sacking Alan Johnson. Auchinleck still had 2 games to play, and they needed the points in order to overtake Meadow. They drew with Kilburnie Ladeside. They still needed to win their final game to win the league, and their final game was against Cumnock Juniors. In that final game, Auchinleck were well in control. With 10 minutes to play, they were leading 2-1, and Cumnock had been reduced to 9 players thanks to 2 sending-offs. Then, against all the odds, Cumnock equalised. Talbot threw everything forward to get that winner, but Cumnock not only defended their goal heroically, they broke away and scored a third goal and won the match. The final whistle sounded, and Irvine Meadow were league champions. Alan Johnson, the manager, he didn't get his job back.
In 1994-95, the team won the Cunningham Cup for the 6th time.
and they could now keep that cup as a new cup. The North Ayrshire Cup would now take its place.
In the season 95, Willie Knox took over as manager, but it was the following season before he won a trophy, beating Kilburn 3-1 in the Ayrshire Cup.
Jack McCartney took over as manager in 1997.
Lord White took over as manager in 1997.
1997 was the Irvine Meadow centenary year, but Meadow were now competing in the Ayrshire District League. And so we've reached 100 years of Meadow providing amazing football for the fans. And it was an occasion well worth celebrating. Led by Milton Thompson, the committee looked for ways to celebrate the occasion. The centenary flag was unveiled in the league derby by Irvine councillor Jack Carston in a match against Kilwinning Rangers. The committee also decided to hold a sportsman's dinner and a reunion dinner, which saw the attendance of 75 former players from as far back as the 1940s. In April they had a centenary challenge match against the Scotland team of the time. Scotland managed a 2-1 win against Irvine Meadow, but Meadow proved they could compete with the best in Scotland. Well, that covers another 25 years for Meadow, although there was a period of struggle. Getting a Scottish Cup win and having such a strong presence with the Cunningham Cup is quite a feat. Our next section, part 5, will look at the last 25 years with the Meadow. Looking at the success we found under Chris Strain's management, for a while, and the struggles we've had in recent years.
Back in the early days, it would appear that local backing was heavily relied upon, and this is our current strategy to engage with many companies. Our new 125 board includes a few new sponsors who we hope will engage with us further. Thank you to all our sponsors.